For your section, Jim. This is Sean.
Okay.
Then,
And I'm going to start recording. All right, welcome everyone. This is the November 30th, 2022 meeting of the Climate Smart Kingston Commission. And with us today, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 5:05 p.m. My name is Julie Noble and I am the chair and I'm also the sustainability coordinator for the city. We're going to go around the room because we have some guests today, as well as one new appointed commissioner who I'd love Vicki, if you were to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself as we go around. We'll start this way.
Hi, I'm Ellie Breckenstein. I'm the City of Kingston's environmental specialist. I'm non-voting member.
My name is Cal Truman, and I have been on the commission since 2018.
I don't remember how long it's been, but I'm Melissa Iachetta. I'm the program manager at Makers for Clean Power, Repair Cafe organizer. And I think it was 2018 or 2019 that I joined the commission.
And I'm Tom Beach. I'm a guest. I moved to Kingston about 2 years ago from Washington, D.C. I worked with I volunteered with an environmental group down there that arranges briefings for Congress. And after I moved up here, I wanted to get involved in climate. So this was a great way to do that, and took the cohort of the tool training. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So,
I'm Vicki Kennedy. I'm really excited to be joining the commission. My wife and I moved up here last summer. I'm really passionate over the environment and sustainability. It just feels like a good chance to get to be more part of the action. So,
Great, welcome.
I'm Kevin McAvoy. I'm the secretary of this commission, and I think I've been the secretary since it's started. Wow. And I was on this before the commission, 10 years. Go back way, but I'm also on the Conservation Advisory Council. I'm the secretary of the as well, on a couple of boards, including Kingston Land Trust, which I'll be proud of now.
Great, thank you.
Karen Sullivan. I guess I've been a member for maybe 6 years.
Dan Smith. Couple years.
We're also telling what we had for breakfast.
Oh.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Brad Borquist. I've been a lifelong resident of the area. Grew up in Rhinebeck, live in Kingston now. Passionate about the environment and engineering, technical details, data, and want to get involved with, local happenings and try to help out the community in the area.
Awesome. And we have Betta online. Betta, do you want to introduce yourself?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
We can.
Oh, okay, great. You couldn't hear me before. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Resident of Kingston. I think I've been on the commission for a number of years now, maybe 7. And in my day job, I'm the campaign director of New Yorkers for Clean Power.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Welcome to our guests. Do we have any official public comment from our guests for the record? Hearing none. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Well, we're moving the presentation to the top.
We will move the presentation to the top. Any other modifications? Okay, we will do the minutes and then we will do the presentation. So hopefully everyone had a chance to review the October minutes. If you did not, there's a copy here. I did give Kevin a couple grammatical changes and 2 additions. One was clarification on the something on the back of the page, I can't remember. Oh, the EV fast charger was a grant that we applied for, not the one that we've already received. And is there something else?
Okay, got that.
Maybe that was it. Yes, it's right.
Yeah, the rest-
And Marcy's
And Marcy's.
name was spelled with a Y, so I. Any other changes to the minutes, concerns?
I have one, just for number 2 about the Repair Cafe.
Yes,
Dave Bennett was brought on as a consultant for a reuse innovation center. So the talk we talked about at the restore was about that,
a consultant.
for a reuse / innovation center.
Oh, that's the other thing I had a question about.
What?
Because it says Melissa went to,
The restore, the Ulster Habitat Restore, there was an event there to talk about this reuse innovation center that they're planning.
with the restore.
Yeah. I say restore,
I think they put
The restore.
because it's a store.
the restore,
Okay, so it's capital R, right?
Yes.
It's in place, so capital.
yes.
You know where we are?
Yeah, no, I know, I'm right
Okay.
there. Where does restore get put in? I mean, I
When
have
to-
reuse innovation.
When to
Okay, okay.
restore and report it.
Oh, I didn't cap it, okay. Okay, that fits.
Now we're,
Okay, now we're on the same page,
now it's in.
literally.
Literally, that's in.
And I'm guessing the reported on, that was one of the grammatical errors in 3.
Yeah, that was.
That was my only,
That was like me going back and editing.
okay.
All right, any other modifications to the October minutes? Now I need a motion to accept as amended. Can I get a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstaining? All right, all approved. Thank you, Kevin, for putting that together, as always, since day one, Kevin, Secretary Extraordinaire. All right, we are going to move on to a presentation by Melissa and Tom about the How to Now solar mapping tool. And so, you have the floor.
okay, Tom's gonna share screen. We'll get started.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so, this is a presentation on the solar mapping tool from Scenic Hudson. We're also gonna go over the workshop and then some external tools and use some examples from Kingston. To start out, I'm Melissa Ayacheta, a program manager at University of Clean Power and a Climate Smart Kingston Commissioner.
And I'm Tom Beach. I took the training class last summer as part of that cohort. I've had a little environmental experience with EESI in Washington DC. They set up briefings for Congress, and I did a little volunteer work for them, making videos and presentations on things. So new to Kingston, anxious to be involved with this work.
All right, so I just wanted to start to go over what the tool does and does not do, some disclaimers. It guides learning, informs discussion, provides a common starting point for stakeholders, distills complex information, and gathers diverse data sets in one place. It does not provide concrete answers, replace local knowledge, replace site-specific assessments or project review, cover every topic in full technical detail, or provide all available data sets on a given topic. And we'll go through some of these examples and show you what the tool does. An example of what it does not do, the local knowledge is important. Mana and Penny, who took the cohort and presented to Rosendale, noticed that the landmine data was missing several landmines in Rosendale. And that's just a data set, an issue with the data for that layer. So local knowledge is important.
Before you go on.
Not landmines, sorry, mines. Yes, I think I said landmines. I meant, mines for repurposing existing mines that are close.
Right.
Scary the rest of the catch that landmine, yeah.
Yeah. Now I know Cal is listening to every word. Okay,
Before
great.
you go on, did you
Yes.
guys produce this PowerPoint or?
Yes, we did.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, over many weeks. Anyways, so this is the solar mapping tool. There are 4 parts of the tool. The first part is an introduction to the tool, an introduction to solar in general, residential, commercial, utility scale, different types of panels, ground mount versus rooftop. Part 2 goes over smart solar planning, which is actually designed by Scenic Hudson, and first assesses patterns of existing land use, then finds opportunities, then avoids negative impacts to valued resources, and then evaluates the land for solar feasibility. Whereas a developer will start with solar feasibility, what's the easiest place to connect to the grid, and then prioritize the rest of these things. The tool also touches upon local knowledge, co-locating solar in agriculture, and energy justice. So kind of some training on these terminologies before you actually go into the mapping part of the tool. Then part 3 of the tool is learning about the layers. So there's about 15 layers in the tool. And part 3 goes through each layer, teaching you how to access it, what scale you have to zoom in and out of. If you don't have a mapping background, this part of the tool is very helpful. But then these are the layers that are available to you in part 4, where it's putting all together. There are biodiversity layers, solar opportunity layers, which has the mined lands that I call landmines. I remember that in my head. And agriculture, which will show you an example of some of these layers. And now I will pass it to Tom, to explain 2 examples from Kingston.
Okay, so this first, I know you guys have selected a couple possible locations already, 5 as I understand it. So this one is just a hypothetical one, just to sort of show how the tool might interact with it. So here we are with Kingston Plaza. And if we go further in the tool, one of the layers it offers is large building rooftops. And these are structures that are over 20,000 square feet. And the tool has these identified all over the city and all over actually the Hudson Valley. So it gives you an easy way to locate where there are large rooftops that might be good locations for solar power. Often they're adjacent to parking lots. So in addition to having the possibility of putting solar on the rooftop, you might be able to put solar canopies on a parking lot. Obviously much more expensive and complicated to do that, but at least perhaps the opportunity is there. Yes?
Are you taking questions as you go, or you want us to hold it?
There's a question part at the end, but it's up to you.
But if you're dying to ask a question, I'm happy to.
No, I can ask you a question.
Okay.
This is like 15 different buildings, but they're calling it one.
Yes, so that's one of the problems of the tool. Sometimes they identify rooftops in the same tax parcel as one rooftop, but this is also where local knowledge comes into play.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a tax parcel layer which separates individual tax parcels out on the tool. So you can identify, even if they're located as like one unit, as that one is, you would be able to see different tax parcels
Okay.
separately.
We don't have it turned on though.
We don't have it turned on here. Yeah.
Okay.
This is just sort of a quick overview of some of the layers.
Okay, cool.
So for example, there are agricultural layers, and in fact, there are 3. You can identify whatever layers you have currently selected through this legend here, which gives you a little idea of what you're looking at. Now, it might seem funny that there are agricultural layers underneath Kingston Plaza. The reason is that's really talking about the soil content. What type of soil is there? Obviously, you're not going to grow plants on Kingston Plaza, but prior to building that plaza, that soil was rich soil, probably from flooding from the Esopus Creek, things like that. So it's important to understand that just because it says agriculture doesn't mean that, oh my God, this is only farmland or something. So just being aware of the subtleties of how this data, where it comes from and how it's used in the actual,
And
the way the tool is.
also to point out that for municipalities that aren't developed and they want to prioritize their farmland, this identifies where they would want to protect certain lands.
Right. So for example, wetlands, another important thing. It's hard to see here, but you can see at the top, there's a wetland area by the Esopus Creek. You wouldn't notice this, but down there by the Herzog's warehouse, there's also an area that's classified as a wetland too. Just pointing out that you have to look carefully in some cases. But the tools, the data is fairly extensive. So floodplains might be a factor. If you put a rooftop solar on top of this plaza, it might be okay with floodplains, at least for a 100-year flood, but what about a 500-year flood? The panels themselves still might survive a large flood like that. However, the connection from the panel to the grid might actually be down in an area where a flood might have an impact. So it's just, again, another data layer to sort of give you some insight as to complications that may or may not come up. One of the things that's really important if you're going to put in solar panels is you've got to get it into the grid. So the presence of distribution lines nearby is really important. It's important to distinguish between distribution lines and transmission lines. Transmission lines are the ones that send power long ways from Central Hudson, the generating plants and all that, all over the state, big systems. These are more localized systems, which are the ones that we'd actually tap into if we had solar panels localized. Different kinds, there's 3-phase overhead, there are underground lines, which may not be useful to us, but they're there if you need to know about them. The question is, how much electricity can these lines take? And this panel right here, this legend shows that by color coding, the line up there at the top left-hand corner has a capacity of 3 to 4.99 megawatts. So that's how much capacity that line could take if that power was generated and dumped into the line. So it's important to know what kind of capacity you have nearby. As we go through here, okay, so this is what we call the measurement tool. The question is, how much solar power can we put on top of Kingston Plaza? You can do it in square feet, which the developer might be interested in. How many square feet do I have to deal with? It's often done in terms of acres, because acres, when you put large installations in, often they're in farmland and things like that. So we talk about acres, but you have both units depending on what your objectives are. And by drawing that little diagram up there, the dark brown area, this is a very, very rough calculation, but it says we have about 6.53 acres on top of Kingston Plaza, which, according to a very rough formula, would generate about 1 megawatt of output. Now, it's important to notice that this formula is based on ground mount systems. That's one thing. When you put systems on top of a building, you have all kinds of other complications. Air conditioning units, ductwork, load-bearing walls that may or may not be able to support an installation there. So it looks like the whole surface of the plaza could be used. In reality, that's not true. But just keep that in mind as one of the details.
It's also, so in addition to like there being code where you have to like give a 3-foot path around the edge of the building and you've got HVAC equipment there, all that kind of stuff. It's also worth noting that on a ground mount system, usually you've got panels like stacked 4 high, and you don't do that on a flat roof. It'll be a 1 layer of panels. So we were actually talking about this earlier, what the right math would be. I don't think you can apply ground mount.
Yes, so we actually use this formula from the tool, which
It's
talks
from the
about,
tool
it's
itself.
from the tool, it's 5 to 7 acres for ground mount systems.
Yes.
Which equals 1 megawatt,
Right,
which can power 150 homes.
right,
But we,
that's
yes,
stacking a lot higher.
yes, we don't know
Space
exactly
insulation.
what that equation is for rooftop.
Yeah,
But we-
but then what you lose in height, you make up by being able to put them closer together because they're not shading each other. So I don't know.
What that would be.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
So this tool is not accounting for the spacing or any
The
stuff.
code.
It doesn't give a formula for rooftop solar.
So you
Or-
look at this, you'd be like, well, that seems like a lot of space, and then you have a developer come in and
And
give
be
you,
like, actually.
they're like, here's what we think fits here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that
And
makes sense.
if you zoom in closer, you can see in much more detail on top of these buildings.
Right, right.
And you might
Ooh, you
get a
got
better
HVAC equipment,
estimate,
like a
yeah,
chiller.
right.
There's also like, it's not fully connected. If you zoom in, there's like an alleyway, all the rooftops are not really one roof.
But you could still run
system.
conduit between,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have an idea how much it overestimates, like a percentage or anything?
No, and the whole point of the tool is they give that caveat of like, you still need a site review, you still need to make sure this
Yeah, that
actually
makes total
works
sense.
with people who know the meat and potatoes of it. It's a springboard, really.
There's another tool that allows you to break up a large section like this into much smaller increments, and we'll show that in a second. So it gives a little more detail than what this is showing here. So again, looking at hosting capacity, if this were a correct number, the 1.0 megawatt output, you can see that that particular line there has a hosting capacity of 5 to 10 megawatts, could easily accommodate power coming from this rooftop system there. The other line in the back also has a large enough hosting capacity that would accommodate that. What's interesting about these two lines is, even though they're right next to each other, they come from completely different substations. So they're very, very different animals to deal with. So the developer who would want to install this system would want to be aware. One of the substations, I think, is just almost on the map or close to the edge of the map there. The other one is way down Esopus Creek. So there's factors like that that come into play.
Julia,
How often is the hosting capacity updated?
I think every 6 months. Yeah. It's updated by Central Hudson, at least for our city of Kingston. And then the tool automatically updates when that data updates.
Okay, cool.
So here's a more familiar example. I know you guys have looked at Andretta Pool as a possible place to put solar. Looking at the base layer here, there's the pool right there. So these are some of the layers that may, that in theory could impact this location. As you can see, none of them directly impact it. We're looking at the agricultural layer, the floodplain layer, the upper right-hand corner where it's sort of pink, that's considered a floodplain. The biodiversity layer, the lower left, is nearby, but again, not impacting the pool facility itself. But the feasibility layer is fairly important. So as we look in here, it's hard to see on this image, but upper right-hand corner, you can see blue lines, very faint, and very hard to see along the right-hand edge near the road. There's a green line. That's a second distribution line that's near this pool. So there are basically two options. So the question would be, do they have enough hosting capacity? As it turns out, you can see the numbers there. There's 3 to 4.9 and 2 to 2.9 megawatts. As it turns out, this facility would not be big enough to generate even close to that amount. So those lines would be able to fit quite a bit. So this is the other tool I was talking about. It's called the draw tool, using a polygon feature of it. And I'm not doing it dynamically here, but you can see I just drew a rectangle over the rooftop area. That rooftop by itself could produce about, well, it's about 0.1 acres and could produce about 20 kilowatts. So now we're down into the kilowatt range. You know,
And to point out, we did use that same formula for ground mount for this, so.
Yeah, so again, these numbers, take these numbers with a grain of salt. They're.
Oh, no, I wrote it down already. We're using those numbers.
Julie, no.
That's not funny.
Anyways, the engineer may have some
Yeah.
issues with that, but we're not there yet, so. However, if you really got creative with this area, notice there's a lot of grassy area and blank space around it. You could do this. This is what the polygon tool allows you to do. It allows you to do a little more refinement in terms of the specific area you're looking at. And so you see on the left there, we have 0.1 acres, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, which would yield a total of 0.7 acres. So this facility, if you really did want to cover the other parts of it with either, in this case, it would be ground mount or perhaps canopy systems, if you wanted to make, for example, an outdoor seating area for people to relax out under shade, and you might be able to do that. Takes a little more of a creative approach. Also, you're taking away ground from people that might want to play Frisbee or something. So many other considerations.
Yeah, we also just have the aerial imagery from the tool, but we know that the building's under construction, and you said there's gonna be a new roof. And we're not sure with the splash pad and all that, what space is available, but this is a hypothetical
We're
situation.
also
Yeah.
putting parking on the front.
Okay, so you're taking away the.
Yeah, strictly hypothetical, but it gives you an idea, you know, of roughly of what the amount would be. Okay. Melissa,
Passing it back
we'll
over to
talk
me.
about this.
So I just wanted to go over what the workshop does, because we went over the tool. And you can go through this tool by yourself. Anybody can access it. But we offer a training with the tool. So we actually, we started last fall. We had a fall one, a spring one, a summer one, and another fall one that just ended 2 weeks ago. And we sit with municipalities for about 2 hours every other Thursday. I think we did every Thursday this go round. And we go through the tool from start to end. We offer my mapping background and my utility background, and then Manager Green from Clearwater, her solar background on what's feasible and what works and interconnecting to the grid. And we offer guidance. We offer one-on-one sessions outside of the workshop to help municipalities. And we have all sorts of people join, zoning board members, climate smart members, and also just concerned citizens. So people from all different backgrounds. And we find that doing it together holds people accountable because people know about this tool and they're not using it. And since we have done this, I'm going to give you some examples of what has come out of it. But actually doing it with people and working in groups and holding each other accountable helps you to actually do it. It needs to be done. Okay, so some resources that the tool offers. You want to go over, they have a frequently asked questions page. If you do want to use the tool on your own and you don't know how to use certain layers, they have that function. They have a data source layer list. So if you're wondering where did they get that FEMA data, where did they get the utility hosting map data, they actually got permission to cut the data for the Hudson Valley area. So that all shows you like in this feature, the whys and the hows behind the tool. With that, they have a replication guide. So the Scenic Hudson mapping tool is only for the Hudson Valley. We had someone from Manhattan want to join our cohort, and we pointed to them to the replication guide so that they can maybe create this entire tool for the New York City region area. Yeah, Scenic Hudson's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they also have a siting guide. So how to smartly site solar in the Hudson Valley. This actually came before the mapping tool. And there's the smart solar planning in that guide you'll see. One thing that Scenic Hudson really wants to hit home about is co-locating solar and agriculture and the great agricultural land we have in the Hudson Valley and smartly siting solars to not upset all the, the farming community.
That's a really good guide.
Yeah. Oh, Cal's read the guide.
It's a good
They
guide.
recommend it. The zoning guide is another thing that was put together, I believe, after the tool, but don't quote me on that. But it's a guide for municipalities who are going through zoning modifications to reference to create proper zoning language in their solar codes so that developers want to come there and find it attractive to build in that municipality. So these are some next steps of after using the tool, a couple examples of what municipalities have done. The town of Rosendale, Manna, and Penny Coleman have, first they use the worksheet. So we have this homework night where there's this Scenic Hudson worksheet. You go through, you identify different lands and opportunities, and not everyone does that, but they did that. They then turn the worksheet into a report. They then turn the report into a presentation. They present it to the Environmental Commission and the town board, and then their town board created a subcommittee to use the solar mapping tool to help identify and potentially create actual solar opportunities from the tool. The town of Cortland passed a solar moratorium, which sounds bad, but it's not actually, because they just wanted to take a pause to allow themselves to evaluate using the tool, their priorities for their community. The tool has a layer for brownfields, the mine layer, basically low impact areas, and then high impact areas. So there's a forest core layer, and they basically wanted to incentivize developers to put solar where they want it to be. So they prefer you go for parking lots versus forests. So they created a ranked solar choice system during that moratorium period. And so while they're open to solar being on all possibilities, they encourage developers to proceed with their system. And how they did that was they also amended their zoning code. So they encouraged development and they put the language in there, opportunity by right, and that's from the solar zoning guide, to incentivize developers to choose parking lots versus cutting into forested lands. And they actually made it so it kind of like speeds through the planning process. So instead of getting hung up in like 2 to 3 years of a back and forth, it's a faster process. So while the person mentioned from Cortland, it's more expensive for canopy solar, there's different steel involved, without having that long process and knowing the communities behind you, it's kind of like a plus for doing that.
They did all that in 1 year.
Since fall of 21, they took the first cohort, yeah. Yeah. And then Croton-on-Hudson, they actually just use the tool to cross-reference projects and proposals that developers give them to see if they're good projects and what kind of pushback it might get from the community. So you can just have the planning board, have access to the tool, very low lift. So with that, I just wanted to talk about next steps. There's we'll have a discussion at the end, but Kingston can join the spring cohort. We can have, recommend zoning board members attend, city council members attend, maybe even the Mid-Hudson Energy Transition Group that presented to us last week. Anyone we really want to push this, to take the spring cohort, or, we can incorporate the zoning guide and the recommendations into our new zoning codes, which I know are going under workshopping right now. I did send the language to Audrey Fredrickson at Scenic Hudson, and she gave us some initial language, but going through that zoning guide with like a fine tooth comb might be a good step to make sure some of that language is in there. And here are just some links, because we're going to share this presentation with y'all afterwards. The siting guide is in there, so the zoning guide, and the How to Solar Now resource page. I want to give a disclaimer because me and Manna have been sending quick links to the tool, which I didn't know, but Scenic Hudson does not want us to do that. So like if you go on Clearwater's website, you can click part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of the tool. We actually want you to go through this main homepage because they got permission to use the hosting capacity maps from Central Hudson with the agreement that they would be capturing who's using this data. So by going through this homepage, there's like a sign in, you just put your name. I don't even think it asks you for your email. But you sign in once and then you're able to access the tool moving forward. But yeah, if I've ever sent the syllabus around or any documents, don't use those links. And that is it. So questions, ideas, and comments. I tried to,
That was a
This
fantastic
is
presentation.
terrific. Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
Really, really, really good.
really? Okay.
Yes.
Bless you.
So I think that exact presentation should go before our planning board.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that I should at least offer them for you to be doing that at a meeting.
Okay.
And you did it so succinctly.
We try. We practice.
Yeah, really, really good. So how do people, so first of all, would you be willing to do that?
Planning board?
Okay. What is the sign up like for the spring cohort? How does that work?
We haven't planned a date yet. We have to, basically, me and Nana sit down with Scenic Hudson and see when they're available because Alex Wolf, who helped design the mapping tool, attends like our database layer session. I think it's like session 3, where we break down all the layers. And then Audrey Fredrickson usually attends session 5 to talk about Scenic Hudson and their resources. So yeah, I don't know when the spring is yet. I will tell you when I know. But we just wrapped up the fall 2 weeks ago.
That's great. And I have one more thing, which is not related to the tool, but really it sort of is. So you have this flooding layer, right? And you said that like there's the concern about the plaza, but the whole entire point of praise project is gotta be in the floodplain.
So I
Can you
would,
speak to that?
correct, yes. The reason that they put the ground mount solar there is because it can't be used for anything else, because it is in a floodplain. So they expect that area to flood.
Yeah, right.
Does it mean that they may make the panels higher? Or?
Sometimes it means that you put the panels up higher. It also just means that like, you can't put something like housing there, right?
Right.
But the equipment for solar can't function while it is wet, but it doesn't necessarily damage it to get wet. Like it's all rated to be outside, it's rated to be submerged for a certain amount of time. So it's ideally you don't want like the inverters to be getting wet, like the equipment that changes the kind of electricity it is into the kind of electricity that the grid uses. But the actual solar panels, the wires, the like racking, all of that can get wet.
Okay.
And so it doesn't damage it. If it were flooded if you put it in an area that was always flooded, you'd have problems. But you can put solar arrays on floating surfaces also,
Yeah.
like the water is not the problem is that like the actual like equipment that changes the electric from DC to AC probably shouldn't be underwater.
Which is why.
So it would turn off in a flood.
Right, I really appreciate that explanation, which is why it confuses me that the floodplain layer is being considered.
I suspect that is just so you know and can plan for it rather than to rule something out.
And also, like, we know that 500-year floodplains are gonna become 100-year floodplains and 100 are gonna become sooner. So just taking all that into consideration, not saying you shouldn't put solar there, but knowing that or knowing there may be, like with the developer, they may need to build larger, like taller panels, just knowing like all the information to help you inform, should solar go here? Is it gonna be complicated? And picking the low-hanging fruit that is easy to developers is more, attractive.
I suspect also that if you're building for grid resiliency during natural disasters, having not all of your solar be in places that in the event of a flood, they would be non-functional, and it's a good idea. So like just being aware, like, okay, well, let's put some of it on high ground so that like if there's a big storm,
Yeah,
we have
putting it
some.
on the rooftop of Kingston Plaza and in the parking lot would be good.
So for instance, like if there was a projected, mega storm and we knew the Esopus was gonna top its.
You're gonna have huge
area,
floods, yeah.
Would point of praise flip off the system?
That's a good question, and I suspect that within a flooding it would. But the other thing is that the panels are down here, and the
Inverters higher.
inverters are higher up, like if you just look at the site, it slopes. So I can't tell you for sure, but I know that they built it with the explicit understanding that that's a floodplain and it's going to be underwater
Yeah.
eventually.
Great. Other people have questions or comments?
You may want to get the zoning portion of it over to Bartek.
Bartek, is that a person?
He's Bartek Sterling. He's housing initiatives coordinator for the city of Kingston. I I got the title correct, but that's what he does, housing.
Director of Housing.
Okay, I can send if you send me his
Yeah.
email, I can send an email. with the-
Yeah, and I'll send you Amy at Dover Call. It's better that they get this now, because they're gonna come out with final drafts soon.
Oh, I was,
You don't wanna be in the position of having
No.
to comment on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like just about done. And
oh, okay,
Send a
I
link.
thought-
Oh, this is-
yeah, okay,
Yeah, you don't want that,
I
right?
know,
Okay, so I'll get that to you.
great.
Other?
Simple.
So,
Yeah, it's a cool tool and not enough people know about it. And good things are coming out of it. So municipalities are really starting to use it to its potential.
I really like the idea.
I'm
of
sorry it took me so long to tell Kingston about it, but.
worth waiting for. Good job.
I really like the idea of circumventing, like people getting upset about solar coming in by actively inviting people to say where they do.
That's the point.
Like that,
of
I know that's
tool
the
is-
whole
yeah.
point, but I really like the way.
Taking, becoming active versus passive
Right.
participants in this process.
Right, so you're like.
And not letting a
seeking-
developer be like, I'm going here, but being like, we want solar here and here. But yeah. Okay.
Really well
Really, really well.
Thank you.
And you'll share that presentation with us?
Yes.
Anything else on that?
I don't believe you can.
Next time, yeah.
Thank you.
want to say
I'm
something?
trying to get him
Next meeting.
involved in the commission, so we'll see what happens.
There are vacancies,
It's true.
well, they're going fast.
We got 2 spots.
I'll look into that, I'll talk to you about that.
Okay, cool.
I'll look into that, for sure.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right.
Meet you very much.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, so we'll hop back up to the top. Refrigerants, I have not heard yet about the refrigerants grant, although this is a point of reference. Normally for all of CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application grants that we normally apply to the previous governor, they would make an announcement about all the CFA grants at one time with like a, ta-da, we're giving out millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it was like a big thing, and this governor is taking a different approach, which is announcing this kind of type of grant, and then announcing this type of grant, and then announcing this type of grant, and doing it like a dispersed way. Either way, DEC grants have not been announced. So actually, none of the ones that we applied for have been announced. So I haven't heard anything about it, although I did just meet someone today that is well versed in refrigerants, and this person is sitting in this very room.
Oh.
So Brad has submitted an application to sit on the commission, so we met before, and it seems as though something that certainly would connect to this commission is Brad's experience with refrigerants. Can you just tell everyone what your experience is?
So I might not get the quantities exactly right, but where I used to work for 7 years, 6 or 7 years, at a semiconductor manufacturing plant in Fishkill. It's changing names, it's been a few different companies, so, but we oversaw, myself and a few other folks oversaw about 60,000 pounds of refrigeration. And that's equivalent to like, I don't know, 6,000 homes worth of refrigeration. Each refrigeration piece of equipment is 2,000 tons that we had, and that's equivalent to about 1,000 homes, and we had about 30 of those. So we could basically heat and cool the entire city of Kingston if we moved that plant up here. It is very big. And we used, I was in negotiations with commercial providers, suppliers, and service contracts for refrigeration, maintenance and upkeep on our equipment. Our department wasn't large enough to maintain everything. They were trying to build it up at the time. I still have a great interest in that, so I'd love to, maybe get the chance to help out. And
And you have a card that says you're a certified
yeah. I'm getting
refrigerant
there.
guy.
So I'm also EPA certified for, I forget the name, what is it, universal certified, so that's every refrigerant. There's refrigerants that don't leak out, what I was telling you before, they actually leak in air and water. And so the chiller actually needs to be purged. It's almost under a vacuum. And then there's medium pressure refrigerants and higher pressure refrigerants. Most of your appliances, air conditioning are the higher pressure refrigerant appliances. But I can technically service all that and manage it. So I do have that license.
Before you look back here, I was getting a brief dummy's guide to how refrigerants work, because I thought refrigerants were gas. And they're not always gas, they're also liquid, because they can be compressed and become liquid. And I thought that you just evacuate them as a gas, but you also need to evacuate them as a liquid. So I got a primer on all of that. So we are definitely going to keep in touch with you, because we have refrigerant management on our horizon, we hope. Ellie and I applied for the grant, we're hoping to get it, and should we get the grant, we will move forward with the plan. If we don't get the grant, we really should be moving forward with something anyway. So, did anyone else have anything else they want to talk about refrigerants? All right. Repair Cafe?
Okay, the next one, I haven't confirmed with the coaches, but I confirmed it with the church. It's December 17th at Redeemer Lutheran, 11 to 3. Flyer to come, please help circulate it. And for new people, Repair Cafe is a cafe that is held bi-monthly, where we have people bring broken but beloved items to be repaired for free. We have electric, mechanical, wood repair, computer repair. My knife sharpener sometimes comes, he's coming from Schenectady, so it's hit or miss. But yeah, and it's all volunteer based. And the Climate Smart Kingston Commission helps run it, but really it's just me. So if either of you are interested in helping volunteer for that, it's a cool event.
How does the public work?
I do a whole bunch of stuff. Radio Kingston puts out an ad. We put it in like My Kingston Kids app, Facebook. It's also part of the Sustainable Hudson Valley larger Repair Cafe movement, which has cafes all the way from like Peekskill to Albany, or I don't even know what the range is, but they help advertise and push, get the word out as well.
Would you see those?
The next one is December 17th. And we've been floating around. Redeemer Lutheran has been our newest main place, but we did one at the Goodwill Institute recently for O positive, and they actually want us to come back there. I'm not sure what we're gonna do about that. Clinton United Methodist Church also wants us to come back now that their construction is over. So now we're actually being vied for. Come do the cafe here. But yes, and sometimes there's a bike repair component with Bike Friendly Kingston, but recently there has not been, but.
Is there someone?
You want to?
I'll definitely help.
Oh, okay, great, yeah, if you wanna give me your info. That's it right there.
Is there someone that could fix a wheel to a piece of luggage that rolls?
What kind of material is that?
It's like a,
Cause like we have a welder, we have like a soldering person.
Yeah.
I don't think,
plastic.
yeah.
Just
no.
bring it in.
I mean, we also have like glues of all kinds, you know, for like ceramic repair and,
Yeah.
so you.
We're now got a little ka-ching, ka-chung, ka-chung, ka-chung going on with the luggage.
You can always, never hurts to try.
Go on. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on Repair Cafe?
Nope.
Anything on outreach and education or youth engagement?
Yes, so for Bike Friendly Kingston, they're re-hosting something that was on halt during the pandemic. It's a bike repair series for kids 14 to, or not kids, people 14 to 24, to learn bike mechanics and earn their own bicycle at the end of the program. It starts from January 9th to February 27th. It's on Mondays, 6 to 9 p.m. at the YMCA. You can register by going to tinyurl.com/ I don't know what I wrote here, midmech, MIDMECH 2023. I hope that gets you to where it should. Otherwise, I will email the commission if you want the official details from Tom Polk. But yes, that program is happening.
That's a great program.
Yeah.
It's $25 a person, right?
Yes, it's $25 per person. and they only select like 9 people or something, but it was just put out yesterday, so if you know any people who would love to partake, get them to sign up now. And then also, I don't know if Cal wants to talk about this, but, tabling at the village.
Yeah, so Village Coffee and Goods, we've been talking with them about, they wanted Climate Smart to have a table there sometimes outside during like the warm weather.
Oh.
To just like give out information, and so, start thinking about what days of the week anyone might be willing to like hang out at a table.
Yeah, it started because I was taking pictures of their bulk bins and I told them it was for Climate Smart because I didn't want to look like a weirdo. And they were like, and the owner was there and they were like, oh wow, like we would love if you want to come. And this was like a year ago at this point, but finally followed up with them and we may want to also table for Neighbors for Clean Power together. But
Yeah.
we would love if commissioners can, find a day or so to.
What's the process for setting that up?
I've been emailing with them, and they said, what do you want to do? And I emailed them right before Thanksgiving, I was like, take your time, I know you're doing Thanksgiving orders, so I haven't heard back from them yet, but it sounds like we would just be like, hi, we're here, and then go out in front and put out a little table and just like sit there and be like, hi.
And the refillery, which is by the brewery, which gets a lot of people and,
Yeah.
it's a
So-
popular area, so I think it would be good tabling.
I was there yesterday, I had such delicious biscotti.
Oh
They
my
have really
God.
good neighborhoods, really, and vegan options.
Like a savory-ish biscotti, which I didn't think I would like.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I know.
Did you dunk it in coffee?
I did.
You
I
did? And
No.
it was nice?
It was like a turmeric chai thing, and I was just like, I don't think I like any of these ingredients, but I feel like I need to go back, it was so good.
Oh, wow.
It's there right now,
That's
it's on the
impressive,
counter,
that's impressive.
$3.
So anyway, yeah, so we have that opportunity, when spring comes and it's not nasty out.
That was a good
to
idea.
table there, I am right now holding that line of communication, but consider whether you're up for hanging out on like maybe a weekday, maybe a weekend, whatever your schedule might allow, and I can continue to hold that. But I will circulate that as we get to like March, April.
In order to make that as like turnkey as possible, do we have a bin already that is like a ready to go? No, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have a huge bin that has like an excess of, like documents in it that go back like 10 years, so there's probably a lot of irrelevant information in there.
Okay.
But we also have the bin from the community preservation plan, and you just take the community preservation plan stuff out of it. We have the stickers, the brochures, the banner, I believe.
That's been,
The magnet?
that's been decompressed.
Okay, well then we can,
I think we should.
Gotta be-
recompress it.
Recompress another bin, that's like anyone ready to go, here's the bin.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing.
Are they providing table and?
I didn't ask about that, I assumed we'd have to bring it, but like, if I'm coordinating with someone and NYCP has those things, and I can like make sure to at least help someone get set up and broken down.
Okay.
We have a tent also, but,
Okay.
the other thing is, I can ask them if they'd like us to give them some like brochures and magnets to have in the store, by the door, or whatever.
Yeah.
For folks who go in and are interested in what we're doing.
If they're willing to house that, that would be great. We have gobs and gobs.
Yeah, there's lots of them and it's good information, so, I can ask about that when I email them again. That's all I know.
That's a great location for outreach. Although I don't know what their clientele is. Or how much it is, but
It's
okay,
aligned with climate stuff, so, and it's a
Because
nice
that's the
spot,
reuse.
so,
right,
Bulk.
agreed.
yeah, so, yeah, just a cool connection.
Nice. Good.
One other thing on youth engagement, it's not exactly NYC, or not exactly climate smart focused, but Melissa and I today were in the high school talking to their environmental club about green jobs. And it was really cool. And the teacher who asked us to come in, I guess, gave all of her students the opportunity to get extra credit if they came.
Is it Sarah?
No, Sophia.
That's not it. Sophia Sagan.
Yes, the one from their thing.
Yeah, she's the one I reached out to tell that there's positions here and at CAC. You talked about it.
Oh,
We were talking to the students about green jobs and they were really, really interested in.
Where did you
engaged in
tell
jobs.
her from?
My desk.
oh, I meant like, what do you mean? Cause you remembered her from the Earth Day Fair and that she was like really
No,
engaged.
from that,
The Ulster County Fair, are you saying?
no.
Okay.
I have gone into her class to present about other things before.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So she was my connection to high school students.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her and Susan Harris, said, do you have students? And that's how we got a student from CAC. I didn't hear back from Sophia.
Yeah, she's doing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great.
This is just like on the youth engagement tip, it's not specifically about climate smart, it is about like
Clean.
making sure that like students are aware that like these jobs exist and that employers in Ulster County can't find enough people to do them.
All right,
But it's
Okay.
relevant.
very good.
Yeah.
Anything else anyone has on outreach, education, or youth engagement?
No.
All right, clean electricity, we rocked through the solar mapping tool. Buildings, so the council last night at the final budget hearing or final budget deliberation, did not cut the line item that was put in for us to install the solar on the 4 buildings next year.
Wait, what? Oh, they kept it.
They kept it.
So it's good.
Yes.
Oh, great. Like, wait.
Well, this is at the committee level, so they have to fully vote on the full budget in December. But once that is approved, which there's no reason why I wouldn't, because it went through last night, I can start with Ellie, developing the RFP for putting the solar on the buildings. So what I think we should do is take the analysis that you've already done,
And do
and
it
do
tool.
this with the tool.
Okay, mine was really rough.
Okay, well, then we'll have 2 rough options, average together, and then we will use that because we will go out to an RFP for a vendor to do all 4 sites. Now, what this just in from today, I've been directed by the mayor to add battery storage at the Andy Murphy Center and the Rondout Center.
Good.
So
What about the fire code thing?
that is the question.
Okay.
How
A
do you-
mystery.
The mystery.
I still don't know why they said you couldn't have batteries.
I still don't know either.
I think it,
Did they, I'm trying to remember, they referred to a specific item.
A fire
Like,
code.
for this reason, you can't.
it had something to do with the parking lot, didn't it? Or maybe that had something else to do.
No, not the parking.
Croton and Hudson is designing a solar project by the train station, and they're designing battery storage right next to it. I don't know.
Well,
I'm
going to either A, go back to Suncommon and say, let's have a few more words about what this little writing is about it. what-
Yeah, explain
Or-
yourselves.
Or 2, go to any other solar developer and say, can we do battery storage here? And see if they come up with the same, what I'm calling an excuse right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to sell a battery system if you could though. So like, it is probably a legit reason, but I don't know what the reason could be.
So,
When was the ribbon cutting for the solar at Andy Murphy? So that I can find in my
in your pictures,
pictures, the code that you referenced, because I've photoshopped, I don't remember.
some beautifully sunny,
Yeah, end of September.
was it?
September, okay. Yeah, I'm too early, because it was during climate. Make walls.
9:21 at 1 PM.
Woo, thanks.
I don't think there's anything on batteries.
Here we go. So that's not even a fire, okay, so.
Read it again.
So, okay, due to New York State adoption of UL 950. And no viable or reliable tested and compliant for public buildings products exist that are New York 2020 Fire Code approved for 3-phase 208-volt services. So it might just be like the kind of hookup you have at that building, there isn't a battery that has been approved through whatever channels need to be approved. Maybe it,
350 what? 208?
you asked me?
Was that sentence about the?
3-phase, so it's a 3-phase electrical hookup, and for 208 volts, which is a little less common.
You know what's so funny is that when we first, like, see how far I've come? When we first got that, I read that whole thing and I was like, I don't understand even 3 words out of this entire sentence. And now I pretty much replicated, I know what all that means. So far I've come.
You're doing a good job.
Just like,
Okay.
what the heck is that?
So it just means that I think it means that the specifics of that building are maybe uncommon enough that the underwriters laboratory or whoever it is whatever UL is,
Yeah.
hasn't approved a battery technology and you need it to be approved through them because of the public building. So I think there must just be like some peculiarity about it being,
But that suggests that
208
there's
volts.
no public building
Yeah.
that has,
well, I don't know if there's something specific about that building. That's what I don't know. is whether,
Yeah.
whether like three-phase turbine voltage is common or uncommon, because I didn't do
It's-
commercial. I don't know.
Well, Central Hudson had 120, 240, 277, 480, but those are their common transformers. So 208 is not common.
That's what I'm saying, it might just be that 208 volt service is like unusual,
Yeah,
because the building's so old.
I think, yeah.
So that's my guess,
Okay.
in which case.
I
there's-
shouldn't feel defeated that I can never use battery storage on any other building.
No, I think it's specific to that building,
Okay,
is like looking at it again, that's what I would guess.
okay,
Sorry for the diversion,
no, it's good.
and then I didn't do this sooner. I was like,
So,
I do this immediately.
Either way, the battery has to come, it's gonna be a separate RFP because it's a separate set of funding, but,
It sounds like you can't do it any right now,
maybe.
probably in a couple of years, but in the meantime, you could probably go to the buildings that are newer.
Yeah.
Or don't have tool services.
So this is perfect timing for us to learn about the solar mapping tool, so,
I would also just reiterate that you should find out what the formula is for rooftop solar. How much square feet or acres do they think would equal like such and such
well, how do you?
kilowatts or megawatts?
I used a website that you sent me,
PV.
PV Lots, I used PV
It's,
Lots.
National Renewable Energy Plan.
Okay, because Thomas was
So it's-
looking up some crazy, just
Yeah.
like formulas that didn't make sense at all, but we used the ground mount formula from the tool, but again, it wasn't for roofs, so PV Watts has.
Well, the PV Watts formula, however they do it, it works really well because I plugged in the like actual numbers for the Andy Murphy Center and it gave me the estimated panels that we actually put on the roof,
Oh, wow,
like pretty accurately.
okay.
So I would say that works
It's-
well.
I think it's meant for rooftop primarily, but you can get, you can change parameters.
Oh, yeah, I never circled back to that. The amount that you projected with that tool is the actual amount that we saw.
Oh, yeah, it's a good tool.
That's good. All right, so that's good. We're gonna be moving forward on that. We're good to go. CCA is slamming ahead. We have our first public meeting on December 7th, which is next week. There's two public meetings. One is at 12 and one is at 6:30. The one at 6:30 is going to have live Spanish interpretation. They are remote, and so if you go to the CCA website, which is engagekingston.com/community-choice-aggregation, you will see that. I would love everyone to go if you want to. I know we got their presentation last month rather, but this is gonna be the kickoff public meeting. We are, in the meantime, working on pulling together information that we need to submit to the Public Service Commission, which is the next step. Kind of moving forward. Community choice aggregation, are you familiar with community choice aggregation at all?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we are moving forward with it. It's called Kingston Community Energy, and we just launched it last month. So I encourage everyone to, if you can attend one of those calls, go, great. If not, I'll post it on the website anyway. You can watch it when we're done. And if you have people that you know that you could share this information with, I will get you a flyer. And also the Facebook. Actually, it would be good to share that on Facebook.
If you have a printed flyer, we could pull it up, yeah.
Okay. Once I get the Facebook post, I'll share it with you, Melissa, and you can share that.
Question.
Yep.
CCA.
Yep.
This might be a little tailored more to like community, solar, so maybe Cal knows. If you sign up your residents for a community solar project and get the meter, 10%, is it that or actually physically installing, like solar on the home? And this is a little long, CCA, but
Can you ask that?
can you have solar installed on the residence?
And also, yeah.
Participate in.
Not in New York State,
Okay,
not New York State.
and CCA is just basically bulk purchasing for
Yeah,
the
but you
community,
can
just
do
for a
both.
good rate, so you don't just trying to see where they all converge.
Yes.
can have rooftop solar and still do CCA.
Right, rooftop solar and community solar you can't have both on the same meter, but you can have the CCA on the same meter as either, because it's just a different line item on your electric bill. It's considered a supply
Third party
rather
supply.
than the solar.
Yeah, but if you're-
Yeah.
What,
It hurts my brain a little because like community solar is off-site, there's no reason it shouldn't be able to, but in New York, the law is that it can.
because you're not producing at night, you're not using batteries at home.
Right.
So you should be able to use community solar to offset what you're using at night.
You're not allowed to. You should, you're not.
Now, the one place that
In New York.
a wrinkle is if, as part of the CCA process, if, I don't know, if they subscribe only to a big solar project.
No, because it's still considered two different items. Like you could, right, this is ridiculous, right? You can have all of your electricity, if you're buying only solar power, which I don't think you would do because it fluctuates. But if you bought only solar power for your CCA, people could still also have home solar or community solar. And if you had community solar and your supply was also solar, all of your electricity is solar. But you could still have both, but you can't have on your roof and community solar. Yeah. That is the way it is in New York State. The purported reason for this law, as I understand it, is the state did not want rich people to buy up all of the solar panels for their house and also all of the community solar. They wanted to leave that as an option for people who can't have solar on their roof for like as their first option and not people who already have solar at home opting into the community solar and making it so no one can, which I think is kind of ridiculous.
And can it be worked around?
Absolutely, sure. Especially if you have more than 1 meter on your property, if you've got like a huge piece of property. But that is the state of the state. Your answer is you're not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, there's that. I'm
Yeah.
learning so much tonight. Anything else on CCA? All right, anything on education and workforce ops, green jobs? You guys did tell a little about.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we already did that.
That's okay. Anything else on that?
I contacted BOCES, they don't do that course in the high school. They did do it in the adult school, but they didn't do it this semester, they might do it in the spring.
Okay.
And
What
so,
course was it?
green jobs,
Oh, they do an actual green jobs course, so.
they did, yeah, sporadically, depending on the availability of instructors.
Okay. So you don't know the next time they're gonna offer, but they have.
Possibly in the spring, so I'll check back with them in March or so.
Okay,
Very cool.
excellent.
I have one other thing on green jobs, and that is that Sustainable Hudson Valley has been convening sustainability type contractors in the area for what they're calling U Green. And it sounds like it's trying to like find out what the shortfalls are as far as like getting people into the jobs with these contractors, because there's training available from the county, there's jobs open, but like everyone's having trouble getting those things to like line up evenly. And so if you're interested in following those conversations, Sustainable Hudson Valley's website has, I think, a link to sign up. And I can send that out. I attended the talk they did yesterday and it was very interesting, but it was mostly contractors being like, we can't find people to do the work that we need to do to meet our climate goals. So that's a pretty common refrain, is there's just not enough trained folks or folks who are willing to like stick out the job.
Yeah, and they want a grant to do this work, and it's this new thing that started, I don't know, a couple months ago. And they're gonna be having several workshops and convening stakeholders, and I'm trying to connect the dots a little bit.
I feel like the same stakeholders keep getting convened. We'll see what happens this time.
Yeah.
Reconvene.
True.
Reconvene.
Excellent. Anything else on the green jobs? All right, sustainable mobility and land use, city fleet. I don't know if we have any updates on our fleet.
No, the same barriers still exist, you know, vehicles we're having trouble hearing, so that has not changed. I did not get to watch that webinar that you sent.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that, but I got a recording, so I'll watch it. Did you see it?
I didn't catch up that. No.
Okay. But I will.
Well, the premise was like how to get around it or why?
I think the premise,
Why it's happening.
it's a little both, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was like, here's what's going on and there's such a mess with everyone trying to get their fleets electrified. And here are some tips on like what to do about that. So I don't know if it like is about circumnavigating that so much as like, here's things that might help in getting around the barriers there. Or like, here's what to look for as far as like how long whoever they are, we expect it to take to like get unattainable, so that we can at least like set expectations.
Okay, I think we're like holding off for a few months, at least until the new year.
Yeah.
But there is still a need in the city for new vehicles, so it will be addressed at some point.
Yeah,
Actually-
that's interesting.
The mayor brought it up to me today during our meeting, he said, we've got departments that need vehicles, are we compromising at this point?
Well, that was gonna be my question for you, but I hadn't brought it up yet. I was like, because we worked so hard on this policy, and we know we campaigned so hard for this, for these rules,
And that's
and
why
now it's like,
he told people to hold tight.
okay, I agree with that.
He said, hold tight, but if you absolutely need it, like you can't get through the day tomorrow or or like you're without a vehicle and you need to buy one, then buy what you need.
Okay.
Yeah, the question is the interpretation of, who takes the buy what you need and goes ahead with it. And
I
who
think
says, okay, I don't actually need anything yet, I just kind of wanted something.
I think the actual urgency and the actual need exists mostly in the police department,
Yeah.
and they buy a very specific vehicle anyway.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be available either.
Yep.
But, I don't know.
Well, we're not in this alone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I talked to, somebody from New Paltz who's having the same problem, so,
I'll try and watch that webinar, we can compare notes.
yeah.
Excellent. All right, on the topic of EVs, EV infrastructure, just an update, the Cornell lot is not reinstalled yet, there's still construction over there. The Prince Street lot, which is the Monkey Joe's lot, the base is in, the concrete has been poured. If you haven't been over there recently, you can now park there, ta-da! It's not striped yet, but it is paved and the green infrastructure is getting installed, but the EV charging station is not in yet, but hopefully will be soon. I have received just this week, after getting an announcement in the fall of 2020, I received this week the draft contracts for building safety, North Front Street and Block EV charging stations. And so I'm now negotiating those contracts. Those will go in next year. And I haven't heard yet on the announcement about the other new grants, which would be the one at the Annie Murphy Center and then the level 3 at the Visitor Center. So that is the structure of EV charging. Oh, and for the public to know, and for all you know, if I didn't tell you already, starting on January 9th-ish, the EV charging station will no longer be free. They're going to be free for the first 2 hours and then 50 cents for every hour after. So get out your pocketbooks. Find a couple quarters. And that is consistent with what the county does. So we're keeping up with the Joneses.
I'm guessing you can pay for it digitally.
You pay for it digitally. Yes.
I mean,
Imagine getting literal batteries into the like EV charger, that'd be so fun.
There seems to still be some meters around, not maybe in Kingston, but where they burn quarters, and just what,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal considering you would just add a parking meter.
Yeah.
Instead of.
Exactly.
And the reality is, a lot of people, unless they're basically squatting all day, most people aren't parking for more than 2 hours anyway. So.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, so that's update on EV charging stations and the update on zoning.
Oh, zoning, this CAC from last month, we were discussing, the definitions of open space, that discussion continued. And, I think the consultants came back with a definition, and then Emily Hauser came back with a different definition, and we submitted that as the CAC, so we're just waiting to see what they're gonna do. And yeah, I would just reiterate what I said before about getting the,
Okay, I was confused, because I read on the website, the second draft was coming soon,
2.0 is
or not 2.0, it was like,
3 maybe,
Oh.
or 2, whatever.
okay, but I wasn't sure like when, there were no dates on like when the
I think
final,
December,
okay,
but
okay.
yeah, that's why I'm gonna email you, and get
Okay.
you, I already started doing that, so you have, Bartek and Amy's information. Yeah, where we left it with, on, solar was small installations like you put on your roof or even a ground mount, I think in your yard, if you're gonna do that for whatever reason. There is some language for that. But anything larger than that would be considered a utility use under the zoning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, to get a hold of it.
Yeah.
The zoning guide.
I probably have to do the same thing that you're gonna have to do, like look at the zoning guide and do a consistency review.
Yeah,
So I think that's where we're left on that. We're getting into, it's gonna be the time when they're gonna finish this project up.
So just a
Yeah.
reference here from the website, which is engagekingston.com/Kingston-forward. Version 2.0 of the Kingston Forward draft has been released here. An electronic version is now available via GridX here. The comment period for draft 2.0 closed on September 30th.
Right.
The next draft of the zoning code is expected to be released on or around December 2nd, 2023, typo.
but,
That's typo, it's a year wrong. It's Friday,
but it doesn't
Friday
say,
of next year.
but it doesn't say that 3.0 is the last one and there's no comments can come.
It says to view the presentation that the city of Kingston Dover Cole gave on the second draft, see here, the recording of the live meeting, see here. Here we go. Following a public comment period on the 2.0 draft, a third and final draft will be released in late fall 2022. Following an environmental review and administrative referrals, we expect the City of Kingston Common Council will consider adoption of the final draft in early 2023. So I would say based on all that, we are too late. Because they're saying that a draft is going to be released on or about December 2nd, which is Friday. So you're not going to send them something and get them to change it.
Aren't you on the zoning board?
I mean, you could. I guess it's never too late until December 2nd at like 4:59, right?
Yeah, try it.
That's so soon. Do you have those email addresses handy? Can you write them down?
I'll just send you-
Email this from your phone right now.
Okay,
I'll get you their information, but.
Because it does say on or around, which means could go later. Actually, you could say, but it said December 2nd, 2023. I thought it had an entire year.
This goes into some of the back and forth on definitions.
and I was just gonna send them the zoning guide because I'm not really proficient on like all this jargon language, that goes over my head.
Yeah, I would,
Like opportunity by right, that's what
I don't know.
Croton did, or Cortland did, but,
That means it's included in the zoning and you can do it as a right. You don't need a special permit. or
see,
some-
that kind of thing,
some
I
other
didn't really
kind.
know what I would be
Yeah.
telling them to do.
Yeah, you can just, if you need a building permit, that's it. You don't have to go to the planning board. Yeah,
Okay, so what's the strategy here? Because it's the
Hey.
30th and they said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we have like an emergency call with them? I don't know. I can tell them what I know, but I don't know much.
There it goes. It's going, I got you there too, address. Right there.
But if I point them to the zoning guide, are they gonna be like, we're not reading this, you know what I mean? Like,
I haven't
Kevin, do
seen
you
it.
wanna look through
Yeah,
that
I'm
and,
gonna have to.
okay,
do
and then
this
maybe create a
tomorrow.
bulleted list of like,
Yeah.
these are our
I'll do this
suggestions?
tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can access the zoning guide through the scenic
Scenic
Hudson mapping tool.
through the website, but
The website.
if you type in Scenic Hudson zoning guide, it will come up in Google.
Okay,
do you all gonna powwow about this?
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else on zoning?
No, no, that's it.
All right, bike share program, Ellie?
Yeah, so last meeting, I received a couple of questions, I don't see any changes or comments on the actual legislation, but if anybody has any now, definitely still receptive. If not, I think it's time to finalize our draft and we're also asking for a letter of support. So if that's something, I don't know how the letter of support works, is that something you have to vote on, who writes that?
There's a couple ways you can do it, depending on, because we said we wanted to submit it by the end of December, right?
Yes.
So you can either draft up a letter of support, circulate it before the next meeting, and at the next meeting, people can read it and say yay or nay. Or tonight, and vote on it then, or tonight, everyone can vote to say, we all support this, and Emily can write a letter, or we trust her.
Okay,
Either of those is absolutely fine.
Well, the second would be ideal, because I don't have to wait a month. So is everybody in support?
Did you decide, sorry,
No, just, so we had talked last month about like, are there cities of comparable size that have had these work? And one of the questions was, well, maybe some of the vendors have stories about like, well, we went into this community and here's how it went, we went into this community, here's how it went. Were you able to like get any other information?
No.
Could you like in 30 seconds or less summarize what the,
Right.
Oh,
because I heard some of it last time, but if you could just like.
Yeah.
Summarize.
so we want to bring a e-bike or e-scooter rideshare program to Kingston. And in order to do so, first we need to pass an enabling legislation, which doesn't actually bring anything in, but permits us to contact a vendor and issue an RFP and have these vendors, submit proposals for the city. So what I've been working on for the past couple months is draft legislation. The original language was sent to me by the Complete Streets Advisory Board, who began working on this last year. They kind of looped me in about 6 months ago. And after we had the Earth Fair and we had a vendor come and demonstrate e-bikes at the Earth Fair, we got some community interest there, and that's when Complete Streets kind of looped me into the work that they've been doing. So I took their draft language and I've been circulating it internally with internal staff who provided me comments. The Climate Smart Kingston Commission, the Livable Kingston Commission, and the Complete Streets Advisory Board. So once we have a final draft, we're gonna bring it to the Laws and Rules Committee for approval, and then to the Finance Committee, because there are some financial aspects of it, like vendor fees and stuff. Once we have their approval, we can bring it to the Common Council for final approval, and if they pass it, at that point, we can bring a vendor in to kind of design a system for us.
So you're just looking for this commission to support the whole process for you to keep moving forward?
Yes, it's just the legislation right now. Because before we actually bring a vendor in, we will be issuing RFPs and hoping for a couple of vendors to, submit proposals. And we will do a full comprehensive RFP review where people will, the vendors will submit references to other projects they worked on in capital cities and stuff like that. And at that point, we can gather the information of they'll put us in contact with a liaison from the city that they've worked with. We can talk to them and see how their projects work and all that. So this isn't necessarily me asking for approval of we want this specific vendor at this specific location or whatever. We just need to pass a law first that lets us do this.
Right, okay. Makes sense.
question,
Yes.
did you decide if you were doing the dock station or the leave anywhere? Is it,
Right, that was.
As of right now, we are doing docked, I believe.
Yeah.
There's kind of, there is no language in the law for a dockless system at the moment. If that's something that people are interested in, then I can definitely add that.
no, I wasn't, I wanted to make sure it
Just
wasn't.
doing
there.
the RFP, just allowing vendors of both models to pitch.
If our legislation only permits docked systems, then the vendors would have to submit a proposal of just docked systems, because we actually need to enable people to do a dockless system.
Does it have to be specific? Pick the legislation have to pick one?
No, it doesn't. We could totally, yeah, we could change it to more vague language so that it's not, explicitly legislation for only docked or dockless systems. Right now, it is explicit for dock systems, though.
But if we allow the legislation for docked and dockless, a company could come in and drop off the dockless at any time.
But if they do that, we have provisions in the legislation that will, set some fines on them. I think the fines were $1,000 base and then a fine per each individual scooter, because they need a permit in order for anyone to come in and install anything or anyone to come in and drop stuff off. They need to get a permit from the city, and they need to pay a permit fee, and the city has the right to deny their permit.
Okay.
So if a vendor comes in and just kind of drops off scooters, which they do in certain places, that would be in violation of our legislation, and we are within our rights to fine them and force them to remove their systems within I can't remember the time frame. Maybe
48 hours.
48 hours, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I would say that definitely should, somebody has to go through legal channels in order to operate.
Yes.
But I don't think we need to say docked versus not docked. I think you just bike share program and what the vendors
pitch. Because there might be people who come in and like do adopt this really well.
Mhm.
The both are pros and cons.
I agree with that because it sounds like the information I was hoping to have beforehand is going to come up during the
Yeah.
RFP process. And so if we're going to hear from other municipalities that have had these systems, what they like to like about them, I think at that point, there might be places where like, listen, dockless actually works better in a city this size and here's why. Or like, here's how we didn't end up having people leaving them in the fucking river. Sorry, excuse me. But like, people like throwing them in the streams, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like,
Well, the advantage of dockless is accessibility.
exactly, and so it might be worth hearing from places, so I think making the. Putting the onus on the vendors to like, why is this a good idea, is,
Yeah, we can let them pitch it.
you know, I agree with that.
But then would the city just go with whatever's a better, like, cheapest RFP, not necessarily,
Not
Doctors,
necessarily.
okay.
We do like a whole review process, and we just decide based on, there's, like a table and like, criteria, like, I don't know what the specific criteria would be for this RFP, but, we wouldn't just pick cheapest.
okay.
What did the Complete Streets in Lidwell say about the dock versus dockless?
They want docked.
That's right.
And can I ask a question? This is for e-bikes and regular bikes, right?
Yeah, the legislation permits both.
And at this point, we're also considering scooters, or are we just limiting it to e-bikes and regular bikes?
Scooters can be considered too, yeah, the legislation isn't explicit like bikes or only e-bikes or only e-scooters, it's any kind of micro-mobility device, I don't know what the exact like phrase is that's used,
Oh my gosh,
but it's something like that.
Cal said segues.
I wanted people to hear.
If you put out an RFP and you get a bunch of proposals, do you then have to choose one of them, or can you be like, never mind, we don't want to do any of these?
We don't have to choose
You don't have
any.
to. Okay, great, yeah, no, then I think, yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good, what you've laid out, but with the addition of like, not specifying whether it's Dr. Dockless for the RFP portion. I expect that doc will be better, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I initially was like, I think we should just say dock, but then I heard the pros and cons last meeting about like, if they're spaced out so far and then it's not accessible for people and there's only, 10 scooters or whatever per station, it not being fair, I guess, or accessible, not fair, but yeah.
Where the dock's located,
Yeah, exactly. One's like all the way downtown versus uptown and,
but
yeah.
then. The accountability is if you bring your bike back to a dock and it's much.
Well, I see people in the
The
city
other one.
chain
I
them
can
up
understand it.
to like poles and like use them like a personal vehicle, and like use them to go to work and stuff, so.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you gotta return it to the dock or else
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
paying credit card.
Okay, so in terms of, sorry, I had to step out, did you discuss the letter of support?
Well, now we're kind of moving towards changing the language of the legislation from being explicit about, a dock system to being opening for the possibility of dockless as well. So if that's language that everyone wants to see, I could definitely work on that.
Can we say like we support? We
Well, so you could either
with that,
ask Ellie could go back and make these changes and circulate the final, and then you could decide on it at the December meeting. And she could circulate a draft letter of support as well with that. She could, or you could tell her that, or trust that she's going to change these things and do a letter of support now, and
Yeah,
it's whatever way you guys want to do it. But the letter of support, if there were to be a letter of support, it would need to be approved at the latest by the December meeting.
I would propose, if I can, that the commission empowers Ellie to write the letter pending the addition of the language change about dock versus dockless.
And I'll send everybody.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion. I
Is there a
forgot.
second? Dan, is there any discussion? All in favor of the plan as proposed by Cal? All right,
That is still.
oh, got it.
She thumbed.
All right, unanimous, great. So Ellie, why don't you prepare to bring at the December meeting, the final copy and also the letter of support for people to see.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else on vice chair?
It's exciting.
So just for timeline on that, what would happen is that our intent is to, do this same dog and pony show for, Live Well and the streets this month or next month. By the end of December, have all the documentation, letters of support in hand, submit that to the Common Council at the end of December, which would go on for January. Laws and Rules Committee, it would be reviewed by Laws and Rules in January. Don't know if there will be discussion, I guarantee I think that there would be discussion about it, I don't know.
Yeah.
How long it would take to go through committee, but ultimately it would need to be voted on by them. And there has been $100,000 set aside in the American Rescue Plan Act funding for establishing this system next year, should we get approved. Or whenever, next year or the following year, whatever we get. So we will bring this back up next month then. Okay. Managing resources sustainably, non-toxic landscape management plan was adopted through the council. It's a local law, however, so it needs to actually have 2 readings and it still needs 1 more reading, so it will officially become a local law in December. At that point, it would be great to pull together some education about it, and I feel like that could be a role of Climate Smart. Because just like the anti-idling, it's at least for the anti-idling law, there's signs up all over, so people have a reminder that they shouldn't be doing that, but there are going to be signs all over about non-toxic landscape management. In reality, this does only apply to city staff, but it is an opportunity for us to go beyond city staff to educate the rest of the world that just because it doesn't apply to you doesn't mean that you shouldn't be also conscious about what you're putting on your landscaping. So maybe folks can think about what that looks like. The community preservation plan, I received a draft of the community preservation plan yesterday. This is the internal Julie draft, which usually gets a lot of critique. Julie is a critical reviewer. So they have received back my comments. I'm going to be getting another updated draft, which I'm going to circulate to the project advisory committee this month. And the intent is to finalize it by the end of December, although I think it actually will be probably finalized by the end of January, because we still need to do a public meeting. So look for a public meeting with that community preservation plan to likely come out in January. Also, if there's anyone besides folks that are already on the community preservation plan project advisory committee that would like to review the community preservation plan in its draft form, in a pre-public draft form, let me know. It's not very long, it's like 30 pages. Anyway, we'll review that. And the organics management plan. Just an update on organics. Again, the council voted last night and they approved the funding for launching phase 1 of the organics plan. So that means, assuming that nothing changes between now and when the council votes full, starting in 2023, we will launch phase 1, which is composting in our municipal buildings, composting at offering public composting at 12 different remote sites around the city where you can bring your compost, and then accepting compost at the transfer station, all voluntary. We are still finalizing the actual plan, so my understanding is that this should be happening this month, but I will also need reviewers for that as well, so anyone who is interested in actually reviewing the organics management plan prior to it going out to the public, you can let me know. That is going to be substantially longer than 30 pages, but I don't know exactly how many pages yet. I haven't seen the full thing yet. I'm also going to be probably looking to all of you to help with launching the organics program when it does happen also. We did get some sort of substantial critique from the council last night about how their constituents are reaching out and are very concerned about organics, which I think is interesting because they're not reaching out to anyone else. But it's
a concern.
the concern is that it's going to be mandatory.
Or what
Which is
citizen?
It's not. It's
Great.
that's simple. So, either way, it is. There's, just like CCA, there's just gonna be a lot of, just like the transition from single stream to dual stream recycling, there's just gonna be a lot of talk around it, so. I have funding for next year to be putting together literature and all these different things, but it'll be, at that point, it's gonna be helpful for the commission to help get the word out.
What about like city events like the Earth Day Fair?
So in my original proposal to the mayor, it was a 3-phase plan, which is intended right now to be a 3-year plan, which included the first year is what I stated, the second year, adding in events and adding in business curbside collection, and then the third year, adding in all residential. The events were denied. That doesn't mean that we can't try to figure it out. But without going into too much detail, right now, we put out dozens of recycling and trash totes at all events, and all of it goes to trash.
Because it's contaminated.
It's contaminated.
So
So
we that's
people
not the
can't even
station.
figure out recycling, it would have to be 100% manned.
Yeah.
It would have to be manned,
There's no budget for that.
and that, besides me saying, hey, climate smart, we got the, who's going to the hula, who's going to the, you know, Italian festival, who's going to the Patrick Safe thing, like, that's not something that I'm prepared to put on this commission. And I don't have another organic checking people commission, so, we have a long way to go to even get compliance on, like, this is recycling and this is trash,
Right.
let alone this is recycling, this is trash, and this is food. So I struggle with it in my brain because I go to every single event and I see the waste, but I also know it's like literally one day compared to 360, like whatever. It's not just one day, it's dozens of days, and it's thousands of people.
Right.
But I think what needs to happen is a cultural shift where more people use the word compost and know what composting is, to then expect that it would happen at an event also. So it's sort of gotta be a bottom-up approach and at events as opposed to top-down.
Question. So the Ulster County Fair and the Garlic Festival in Saugerties did staffed
Yep.
waste stations.
Yep.
Do they just budget in that they need to pay people to be at those stations? Do we know?
Yep.
Okay, and that's not something that can be budgeted for.
It absolutely can, it wasn't for 2023.
I see. Is that a cost that has already been calculated? Like, here's what we think it would add if you had to have a person stationed at each of 6 waste stations or whatever.
No, it absolutely could be calculated,
Okay.
because I could calculate, I could ascertain how much waste we have at events, ascertain 30% of that or whatever for as food,
Yeah.
meaning ascertain what the diversion rate would be, the savings of diversion, and then cost that versus the cost of somebody standing there.
Yeah.
I could absolutely calculate it all out.
I wonder if it would be worth doing that math sometime before that question comes up again for like, so for 2023, that's a no. I wonder if it's worth doing that math before that decision gets made for 2024. And just being like, here's what the cost benefit analysis is of making it mandatory to have the waste diversion in this way, but having someone there versus the cost of not diverting it and having all of this getting paid to go to the dump and the associated environmental impact and health impact of that.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, another complication is also that it's one thing when we're rolling out composting for our own municipality, but when we have events, we're bringing in people from all over, right? So like, even if Kingstonians are used to composting, it's still like, hey, I'm here from X other town.
But again, if the Ulster County Fair can do it, I'm saying that they've got vendors from all over.
And we did
That's
this
just
for the
one.
Kingston event.
What's
We were at the
We did
Kingston
Kingston.
event.
But all of these had like a person standing by
Yes.
each
Yeah.
individual.
Right, and so what does it take to make that be
Yep.
the norm at city events?
Yep.
I guess is my,
Yep, as part of the 2023 rollout, I will absolutely commit to figuring that out. at the very least, to be able to have a grasp of if we were to ever do this, like this would be the cost, this would be the benefit, this would be whatever the risk, I don't know.
Sure, the return on it, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be, I think that would be really helpful if you have the
Yeah.
bandwidth to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if this Garlic Festival used volunteers or,
I'm not sure.
I saw an email that they were looking for volunteers,
Volunteers.
and you got like a free ticket for the rest of the day or whatever.
you just stood there the whole, for like.
Yeah, and you just
it was-
said that could go there, that.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, we did the same thing at Native Kingston. And yeah, you get 100% compliance, you get 99.9% compliance.
Yeah, and then you don't have to divert, you can like pick through for that amount.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that was a wrong thing ended up in there, but not the whole thing is contaminated, we can never pick this through.
Yeah,
Do we have any data on, like how many cities, counties, whatever, do this? Because I think like it's not that uncommon to see the separation of organics. I mean, I certainly see it everywhere. I mean, I'm in a little more cities sometimes, but
in public places,
yeah,
or are you saying how many people do curbside collection?
no, in public places. You're saying that like to
Yeah.
do it at an event, you want to see
Yeah.
a cultural shift, so people are thinking about it. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, like, where are we? Where, I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, how many people are aware of this? How many people are used to it?
Yeah.
Is there any data on that?
Not a comprehensive data set, but like anecdotally, I would say bigger cities more than smaller. Right, so like, I went down to South Carolina for Thanksgiving and we came back in through New York and multiple places in New York, there was composting available in a public place.
Right.
But like, in terms of citywide composting, it's not common, certainly not in New York. I mean, like Scarsdale and a couple of places in Westchester do it, New York City does it. But like, you can't compare.
Parts of
They
it.
did it until they implemented it.
Yeah, you can't.
What was that?
New York City no longer picks up your compost, as far as I know. Maybe a couple of
They're
different.
supposed to read.
They stopped?
I think during the pandemic.
It's in the pandemic, it's
Yeah, they were doing a pilot in neighborhoods.
Brooklyn
A
had
couple
it.
of places had it.
Yeah,
Brooks.
Park Slope, I think.
Yeah, we were in Parsec and they had it and then they stopped it and then there were certain, there's still drop offs in Manhattan, but they, then
exactly.
the mayor was supposed to redo it, he didn't redo it since the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
so
is
it's
not
not
happening,
happening,
so I want to know.
it's not, it's not happening right now.
Cowards, they're cowards.
I can't believe that this is.
My mother-in-law still takes her compost to somewhere.
Right, you can bring it to the
Yeah.
farmer's market, but they don't pick it up.
Yeah, they don't pick it up, yeah.
They were picking it up from it. I think that
Either way, I
might,
guess the bottom line of your question is, we're not like lagging behind. If we were on the spectrum, we would be on the spectrum of champion leaders. Which is also why it's been complicated, because you can't just look to another community and be like, how are you doing it?
Is this something you're trying to get on the permitting process for like festivals and parades?
So, yeah, when we eventually do it at events, it would have to be part of the permit that either I don't even want to project, because who knows, but I would say it would probably be that the event organizer would need to pay for either X service to bring it in or pay a fee to us where we would provide this service.
Because if you want a festival permit, you have to probably show like, oh,
Sure.
like insurance
Yeah, yeah.
or like a porta potty plan or
Yes.
security, like you have to have crowd control.
Yep.
So then you just make, or do you charge like people for the use of the police for?
So it depends, yes.
So it's just,
Right now,
the next thing is just a waste management thing, so they have to present all these other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we are with events. It's not off the table, but it's not currently on the table. It's gonna be a little bit more of a change.
I would be really interested to see that. If you can-
Yeah.
if you can.
All right, anything else on managing resources? Okay, we didn't have any new business. Does anyone have any announcements, events, or updates to give?
Oh,
The,
the utility.
oh, yeah, there's, yeah, do you have that handy?
There's a program, I can pull it up.
Utility relief sign up event. There's one in Kingston. It's tomorrow from 5:30 to 8. Communities for Local Power and the Public Utility Law Project are putting on an event to help folks who have accumulated utility debt to deal with that debt and to get some of it forgiven. So that's happening.
Less climate smart, but I think.
I mean,
important
yeah,
and
it's
happening
still
in Kingston.
utility stuff. That's happening tomorrow at the Kingston YMCA from, is it 6 to 8? Okay, I have 5 through 8 in my calendar, but I think it's probably 6 to 8. And then they're doing it again in Newburgh in a week maybe, but the one in Kingston is tomorrow. At the YMCA.
Okay.
There's also next week a climate related, or maybe it's 2 weeks, what day is it? I'm sorry, I'm so out of sync. The
Hudson Valley Climate Action.
Exactly. The Hudson Valley Climate Action Network is having a mixer at
Senate Garage.
the Senate Garage, where I've never been, so it's really exciting. Where folks who work in climate can come and hang out and have snacks and meet other people who are working on climate stuff.
That's
And maybe-
December 15th,
Yeah,
4 to 7.
4 to 7.
there it is.
You have to pre-register.
You do have to pre-register. You're supposed to
You're
pre-register.
supposed
They've
to.
requested it so they know how many snacks to get.
And if
To
you get,
avoid food
if
waste.
you didn't go to the first mixer, it was mobbed, there was a million people there, it was awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't go.
Really, really good, one of the best
Yeah.
mixers I've been to.
People from all different backgrounds. There was like SUNY New Paltz and colleges, there was nonprofits, there was municipal leaders and
Contractors and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So that link, I can send out that link also.
And Kingston is definitely a member of the Hudson Valley Climate Action Network. So. And the mayor will be speaking.
And for people that don't know what that is, it's kind of like Facebook, the way I say it. It's like Facebook, but for climate in the Hudson Valley. So it's a network. It's only a website right now. It's not an app, but yeah, anyone can join some working groups and, you know, they have a feed and stuff.
Any other announcements or events?
No.
Any update on the Ulster County Climate Smart Committee?
That'd be better, I think.
Better?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
But are
Does she know that you asked her?
Do you know that I asked you to give an update on the Climate Smart Committee, Ulster Climate Smart Committee?
Oh, I thought you asked me whether I had anything else. Sorry. It's hard to stay focused when you're at home. I missed Monday night because I was too sick to go.
Okay, no worries. All right, so determining social media postings, we also have to decide on the December meeting. So social media, we're gonna post the Repair Cafe, post the meeting about CCA. Wanna get you that information?
you could post that utility relief thing if you.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And anything else?
Should I put up a reminder about the zoning comments or are they not accepting comments anymore?
They're not accepting comments.
Okay.
Your comments are going to be rogue, less,
Unsolicited
rogue,
advice.
unsolicited 11th hour.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean you won't read it.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, we've done this
Read it.
already.
Mhm.
We put comments in by the deadline and then we put additional comments and amended the additional comments. So finally, that September 30th ended up being October 15th. So yes, just.
Okay, but don't put it on, don't advertise it to the whole city.
Right.
Right,
The whole
right,
city
right,
reader.
right. Because that's, yeah, kind of actually.
All right,
That's plenty of things.
I want to check in about the December meeting. Right now, it's set for December 28th. If we're not gonna have quorum, I would like to change it.
Might be in May.
I won't. Honestly.
Oh, I will not.
That's 3. That's
I won't be here.
4, okay. So we can either move it or change it. Or
What's the
move it,
difference?
or move it, or cancel it. We can move it or cancel it.
I would rather have it if we can find a time.
All right, so should we assume that entire week is out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably do Thursday or Friday. but I don't know if anyone else can.
Okay, we're gonna assume that week is out. So the previous week,
Week of the 19th.
which would either be the 19th, 20th, 21st, or 22nd.
I'd probably make any of those two.
I'll look at whatever meetings are meeting that week.
Festive.
All right. December, here we go. So there's a planning board meeting on the Monday. Laws and rules on Wednesday. Which just means that we would need to meet in another room. It doesn't mean we have to cancel. So are people feeling that week?
I could do that.
This
I
is-
can't do the 19th.
We're looking at now the 20th, 21st, or 22nd.
20th or 21st will work better for me just because I won't be driving.
I have the land trust at 6:00 on the 21st.
Can we do the 26th?
But I can just leave, it's at 6:00.
Well, what about the 20th?
I could do the 20th.
20th would probably work.
I can do the 20th.
Yes,
Pretty sure.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Betta, can you do the 20th at 5?
I think so.
Ellen?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go with 12:20, 5:00 PM. And I will let you know where we're gonna be in. Is there any other business?
These, the email out.
Did the minutes get you?
Does that happen? So you email the minutes out?
Yes. Yep.
Usually like the right before, like the week of the
Yeah.
next week.
Any final comments, any input?
I did have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the EV infrastructure, I assume you're taking advantage of the EV charging station incentives, Central Hudson?
All of them have been paid for by grants fully.
Yeah. There were large incentives when I was working down in Fishkill.
Yeah, it's real.
Like they paid for the meter entirely.
Yeah, all of the infrastructure is paid for and electricity for the first $500. Anything else?
That's all.
All right.
Okay.
If
I
not,
move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Okay, it is 6:51. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Betta. See ya.
Thank you. Take care.
Feel better.
Thanks.
I will add you to our, I have 2 listservs.